morning. Welcome. I'm here live from the School for Poetic Computation in New York City, in the West Village, on a Friday. Got music playing, got lights, I've got a computer, I've got a rainbow. This is probably too loud. Hold on. Can you actually hear me while I'm talking? I hope you can. So anyway, welcome to the Coding Rainbow Friday morning edition. It is about close to 10:30 a.m. I'm going to be here for about an hour or so, and then I'm going to come back this afternoon. If you are watching this in the archive, meaning it's just an archive video on YouTube, hopefully you can look down into the description and you'll see a bunch of time codes where various things will happen, because a lot of this raw sort of video will just be me tinkering and setting things up and figuring stuff out. I will also take whatever happens in this live session and make separate video tutorial chunks that will appear online somewhere. So first, if you are watching, please let me know. Can you hear me okay? Oh, is this music terrible? Let me fade the music out. That was there. Okay, faded the music out. Can you hear me okay? Can you see this computer screen? Can you see this whiteboard over here? Does everything look good and sound good? Please let me know. And I'm going to check the chat now and see what people are saying. Music's pretty loud, sorry. Okay, I need to get what I'm hoping to do at some point. Whoops, I'm over here. What I'm hoping to do at some point is I want to do tutorials that involve sound, and I also am looking into having a theme song made for no reason other than that would entertain. I would enjoy that. So I'm trying to figure out if I can get some more sound stuff going, and right now I have a very crude system, so hopefully I will improve on that in the future. Okay, so what's happening today? Yes, and so someone in the chat, Alvaro says, instead of setting a regressive counter, you'll be setting a stopwatch, and that is absolutely correct. So right up here above me, you can see I have a stopwatch because I'm going to do a coding challenge without a countdown timer, but just sort of see how long it takes. And I think that will work better, and I've gotten that feedback from a lot of people, and that's what I think I'm going to try today. I'm getting told by Peter Kwan the whiteboard is legible but slightly overexposed. Okay, take a look at this. I'm going to live adjust the camera settings. Oh, that's the wrong direction. Hopefully that's a little bit better, okay? So hopefully this is a little bit better. I need to work on lighting and white balance and all of that sort of thing. What I want to know is when I talk really loud, are you hearing a distortion in the audio? Normally I've tried to talk around this kind of voice. Anyway, I want to just get started. I spend way too much time introducing things, and I want to just get going. So I had some subway trouble this morning. There was no local trains running where I live, and so I had to take a local train up, and then I had to get on an express train, so I was like 20 minutes later, and I was really hoping that today would be the day that I would kind of prepare and be ready before I turned on the live stream, but that didn't happen. So I need to get myself situated here, and the two things that I want to do this morning, and I'm going to come back this afternoon, I'm committed to coming back this afternoon, is I want to continue my Git and GitHub tutorials. I did video 1 and video 2 topics, so I want to get to some of this stuff today, hopefully. The other thing that I want to do is, continue with these idea of coding challenge ideas, and I can take some of these off. For example, I did the Menger sponge. I did the shape morphing, but I never released it because it was such a disaster. So maybe I'll do the shape morphing again, but in JavaScript as one. I don't think I need the carpet anymore because I did the sponge. I don't know what this bird generator thing is, but I'm going to leave it on there. And then there were some other ideas which I... Yeah, okay, so there are some people asking, I noticed, I don't know what to do about this, but I decided since I have the capability to stream live both to YouTube and to Twitch, with the idea that maybe there is a community of people on Twitch who might discover creative coding in these videos and the stream, I don't know if it's too confusing. It'd be better to centralize all in one place. But right now, more people. Right now, it appears that there are 27 people live on YouTube. And it appears there are 7 people live on Twitch. And my goal in life really is just to spend more time in the sunshine and be with people. But if I'm thinking about this live stream, my goal is to see if I can get 100 people live watching at the same time. And I want to come up with more ways to make things interactive. I think what would be useful is for me to actually put a screen up kind of like where above the camera that I can see maybe the chat in a larger font, or have some sort of live voting thing, or at least so when the audio cuts out by accident, I could see that feedback more quickly. Okay, how do you make an object split itself into 2 objects? Oh, I love this idea. That is so good. I almost don't want to even spin the wheel and just do that one. That is a great challenge idea because I'm always getting asked this. Object split into 2 objects. This is such a good suggestion. Okay, Mitosis Simulation. Tetris game. Tetris is Tetris I think would have to be a tutorial series. Way too much for like one 10 to 20 minute video, I think. So I'm going to be live. I'm going to a P5JS working group meeting today. So I'm going to be live until I have to leave to go to that. Then I'm going to have some lunch. I got an errand to run. Then I'm going to come back and be live again. So right now I'm expected to be live for at least 1 hour. And then I expect to be live again around 2:30 or 3 p.m. Eastern time. Okay. Yeah, so some people suggested putting the, I know I said I was going to put the timer in the bottom right, but I think now that I made it much smaller, this is more dead space up here, it should be okay, but we'll see. Okay. All right, so I think I usually like to start with the coding challenge, although it really would make sense for me to continue the GitHub stuff because I already have this up here. But I'm gonna hold on a sec. I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna put. I'm gonna wash the whiteboard. I was gonna put the music back on, but I don't have a good system for doing that. So I'm gonna clean the whiteboard here, and I think what I'm gonna do is spin the wheel for a coding challenge. I really just want. Some people had some other really good coding challenge suggestions on Twitter, and I think I forgot to capture them on my list, so I apologize about that. Here we go. Whiteboard is going to be fresh and clean. Notice, by the way, a new exciting technical feature. I have the counter also in the whiteboard shot. Okay, coming back into view here. Now, okay, checking out the chat. 37 people, this is very exciting. All right, so let's look at this. Oh, okay. So let's see, I'm gonna leave, snake game is done. Okay, bird generator, I still don't know what that is. I should really just take that off, but I like it on there as like, causes a little bit of fear. Makes drama, suspense. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is open up the browser, and I'm going to go to, if you go to schiffman.github.io/randomizer, you will, I need to work, by the way, if the code for this is in a GitHub repository under my account called Randomizer. I would love help with this. Design help, interaction design, visual design help, interaction design help. But what this is, I made this little tool for me to pick somebody in class to show their homework. And I'm going to use it here now as a way of randomly picking a topic. So I want these to maybe have shorter names. So following eyes, solar system, bird generator, space invaders, simulate rain, Pong. Okay, last chance. Any ideas to add to this list? Any ideas to add to this list? Let me check the chat. Yeah, everyone's asking about sound. I didn't set that up for today. The problem is the system that I have. Okay, maybe I'm going to try to do that this afternoon. The system that I have multiple different computers. I'm using this software called Wirecast. This computer screen that you're seeing right here, any sound that this computer screen makes will not make it onto the live stream. So I got to correct that, and maybe I'll try to do that for this afternoon. Snake motion labyrinth generator. Ooh, that's a really easy one. Not an easy one, but boy, I don't know how to do because what's the thing called? 10print. Look up 10print, the book 10print. Fish motion like koi pond example in paper.js. Hey, these are getting a little too crazy. That's a really exciting and interesting suggestion, though. Okay, labyrinth generator. How would we do that? It's actually to make it. I don't think I could just do one. I have to research that. I'm going to add, okay, so I'm going to add, just because that's a great idea, so I'm going to add music, sound, something, labyrinth generator, swimming fish. I'm adding these to my list, but I'm not putting them in the possibilities for today. Yeah, okay. All right, so let's get moving here. Let's make this happen. Let's go back here. So this is my list. Pong. I kind of want to do the objects split into two objects, but I'm going to let the list of whatever happens, happens. Okay, what I should do is have like a voting system. I don't know how to do that right now. Somebody build me a voting system. Okay, I'm going to hit submit, and I'm going to click on spin down here. So now what you see is that I have this Wheel of Fortune thing, where each, it's not going to work, where each, and actually I can make this smaller and hit refresh, where each slice of this pie is a particular topic, and when, I think I can actually just move this. Oh, it doesn't spin. Oh yeah, it does. So I can actually move it and toss it. I forgot that I built that in, or I can press this spin the wheel button. So I'm pressing this spin the wheel button right now, and I'm going to, at some point, stop pressing spin the wheel and see where it stops. Now the font is so small, I'm sorry you guys probably can't see this too easily, but let's let it go. Okay, spinning the wheel of coding challenges. Pong, Simulate Rain, Space Invaders. Looks like we're going to be doing Space Invaders today. All right, that was good. That was requested by a bunch of people. So here's the thing. I said the other day that if I was going to do Space Invaders, I was going to call it Flower Invaders. And instead of shooting bullets, you would shoot water to water the flowers. So I'm going to do that, but I think I might, in my YouTube titles and tags, might call it Space Invaders still, Space Flower Invaders, because maybe more people would find the video if they're like searching on YouTube how to program Space Invaders. Okay, so that's the coding challenge we're going to do. It is 10:35. I hope to finish this by 11 and have a little time to continue also the Git tutorials. Oh, I really want to do more stuff with the Connect. I got the Connect out yesterday. I hooked it up. I got the Connect 2. The other thing I really need to do is make all of my previous Connect version 2 examples work with Connect version 1, because that's probably the most frequently asked question on my YouTube channel. Is like, oh, I can't get your version 2 examples to run in the version 1. So I got to work on that. Okay, so let me get myself set up here. Oh, I was also thinking of using, let's do this in JavaScript. I'm tempted to do it in processing. Let's do this in JavaScript. I was thinking about, what was I thinking about? Oh, using the Atom editor. I don't have that. Switching over to using that to show people that. But I'm still just going to do my usual Sublime thing. So I'm going to open up Sublime. Hold on a sec, everybody. I need to get a tissue. Okay, back. Checking out the chat. Okay, so I need to get myself set up here. So on the desktop, maybe under Coding Rainbow, where is my files from last time? Here, challenge 1. So let me make a new folder. Call this Space Invaders. Let me open this folder up in Sublime. We don't need this snake object. And don't save. We don't need anything in sketch.js. Let me make sure this looks right. And then let me get the browser open. I need to run a local server. Does Atom, if you use the Atom editor, does it run a local server for you? That's a question I have. Terminal, CD desktop, coding rainbow, challenge 1, and, oh, no. Space, oh, Spave Invaders. Let's fix that. Space Invaders, Python-m. So I'm running just a local server to serve up the files in that folder. And then I'm going to go to localhost, and it's called Snake Game, which let me fix Space Invaders. Oops. Don't save. Hold on, everybody. We're almost ready to get started here. And remove. And call this Space Invaders. And close that. Open up Sketch. OK. I think I'm ready for the coding challenge. What I like to do at the start of these videos is also pull up a visual reference to what we're going to program. I could do this. This is good. Ooh, because sometimes this shows up as a thumbnail or something. OK, so let me just look and check if there's any other questions. Oh, I got, wow, 45 people watching on YouTube. That is amazing. My goal, halfway towards my goal someday. And I think that I am just about ready. So one thing that I did that you will all be pleased to hear about is I distinctly have 3 bars on this microphone battery and 3 bars on the other microphone battery. So I know I won't have microphone issues. And I also, what was I was coming over here to check something. Oh, and I'm going to cycle these cameras. And here we are. We're getting ready. This is going to be today's Coding Rainbow Challenge, making space/flower invaders. OK, whoops, I lost my window over here where I check to make sure everything's working OK. Audio check, audio check. Everybody, everything's good? OK. OK. All right. OK, hold on. Sorry, I shouldn't look. The problem is I start looking at my phone, which has like YouTube comments, people tweeting me. Because I got worried. Like, oh, should I have my? I'm gonna put it over here. OK. So let me just check my timer thing. I got to get that set up. And I'm going to hit. Oh, right. OK, I'm going to hit. Hold on. I'm trying to figure out a way of doing this better. Okay. I want to start the timer. I should put the timer in. I'm trying to like start the timer and be in the video at the same time. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's OK if the video starts and the timer's already on 5 seconds. I can't get it to start at negative, can I? OK. Check the chat. What are those buttons on the search page? That's an interesting question. But I don't know. Just look yourself, I guess. OK, here we go. So I won't be looking at the chat for a little bit, which I should be clearly. But I might look at the chat if I run into trouble to see if you guys have suggestions. OK, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hello, welcome to another Coding Rainbow Coding Challenge. I'm calling these the 10-minute challenges, but this one, we're just going to see how long it takes. They're no longer 10-minute challenges. And in this challenge, I'm going to look at programming Space Invaders. You can see Space Invaders is a classic Atari game. I don't know, it has a long, interesting history. Oh, there's a great book about, whatever, I'll link to it. There's a book that I'm thinking of by a bunch of people, Racing the Beam, History of Programming in Video Games. Not relevant to this. Let me start this challenge over. I don't think I need to spend 30 seconds talking about that book. Here we go again. Hello, welcome to another Coding Rainbow coding challenge. This challenge has no time constraint. I've got a stopwatch going. We're going to see how long it takes. I'm going to go move quickly, but not going to rush, and we're going to feel relaxed and meditate on what we're going to program here. So today, what I'm going to program in JavaScript using P5.js is the game Space Invaders. Classic Atari game, I believe. You can see some images from the original game. I'm going to be using simple shapes to represent the things in the game, and actually, I'm going to create a different version of it. I'm going to call it Flower Invaders, and instead of aliens, there will be flowers, and instead of bullets, you will shoot water to water the flowers, because that's how I feel today in my world of rainbows and programming. Okay, so I have to just get started. So the first thing that I need to do is I have a blank canvas here of code, and I'm going to add, I'm going to type in here, I'm going to add function setup, and I'm going to add function draw, and I am going to say, create canvas 600, 400, and I'm going to say, background 51. So I'm using the P5.js framework, which has a setup and draw function. Setup starts the program, draw loops over and over again for animation, and I'm going to, I minimize that. I'm going to go back to the browser here, hit refresh, and you can see there's my canvas. So let's think about this. Let's come over here for a second and think about how we're going to organize the code for this. So in my Flower Invader program, I need to have a bunch of flowers. I need to have one watering can, and I need to have water things. And maybe I need a bunch of those. So I need an array for flowers. I need an array for the water. And I need one object for the ship. We're just going to call that a spaceship. It's a watering spaceship. This is what I'm doing today. Okay, so let's do the spaceship first. That's probably the easiest thing. And what I'm going to do for that, and I'm just going to go right ahead. I'm using the Sublime text editor, but I'm going to make a new file, and I'm going to call it ship.js. And I'm going to write a constructor function which gives an x value. And I'm going to say width divided by 2. So this ship is automatically going to start in the center of the window. What does it need? It moves left and right. So although I guess I'm going to move it left and right with the keyboard. So this is really all I need. Now I also need a function to show it. And I'm going to make it a rectangle because I'm lazy and I'm figuring out how to draw a triangle at the bottom. It's going to cause me too much of a headache. So I'm going to make a rectangle at this.x. And where does the rectangle need to be? At the bottom of the window, height. But maybe the rectangle is going to be like 20 pixels high. So it sits at the bottom, but 20 pixels up. And then maybe it's 20 pixels wide and 20 pixels high, and it's going to be white. And now, so this is a very simple idea of a constructor function. I can make a ship object, and that ship object has a show function. If you're wondering why I'm using a constructor function rather than making just like an object literal, I just like constructor functions, and I made a whole video tutorial about them, which I will hopefully link to somehow if you're watching this. Okay, so now I need to go back to my main sketch. Ooh boy, I lost that. Oops, this is like an irrelevant file. Sorry about that. I need to go back to my main sketch, and I need to create a variable. I'll call it ship. And now I can make an instance of that object, new ship, and then I can say ship.show. And now I added that code. I should be able to hit refresh. We spent about 3 minutes doing this so far. I can hit refresh, and boy, I have some sort of error. So look, ship is not defined. So why is ship not defined? I certainly defined it right here in this particular JavaScript file. Well, one thing you can't forget to do is when you add a new JavaScript file is to also make sure a reference to that JavaScript file is included in your HTML file itself. That's what the browser is actually loading to know what all the JavaScript it should look at. Now we can see there's the ship. It's right there at the bottom. And now what I need to do is figure out a way to move it left and right. So one way to do that here, since I'm using P5.js, is to add a function called keyPressed. And so in keyPressed, I can check. This is an event that's triggered anytime a user presses a key on the keyboard. And I can check if the key code is right arrow. And I can say ship.left, else if the key code is left arrow. Oh boy. So I got to get my equal signs right. So first of all, how many equal signs should I be using here? 100%, not one. One equal sign is for assignment. X equals 5. If I want to ask the question, does x equal 5, I can use 2 equals. And if I want to be really, really serious about it, I'm going to use 3 equals. I'm a little off topic here, but I'll just point out what I mean. This is true. This is not true. So, oops, the first one is true, the second one is not true. Think about that for a little bit and come and ask me in the comments if that doesn't make sense to you. Okay, so coming back here, I'm going to then now say ship.right. So if, amusingly, I'm moving the ship left when I hit the right arrow and right when I move the left arrow. But actually, I don't like this. First of all, what are left and right? Oh, this is some magic automatic thing that happens on a computer. When you call a function called left, the thing moves to the left. No, this is the idea of something I'm going to make up that's part of the shift. But it would make much more sense for me to have one single function that moves the ship. And then I could give it an argument to tell it whether to go left or right. So I'm going to just say ship.move, 1 meaning move to the right, ship.move, -1 meaning move to the left. And now I can go into the ship object and add that function. Move equals function. I'm going to make a variable called dir. That's the argument, getting the 1 or the -1. And I can say this.x plus equals dir. So when I press left or right, the ship moves left or right. So now if we go back and hit refresh, click in here, and you can see there, it's really moving. Can I hold the keyboard down? All right, we've got some issues here, interaction-wise. Let's at least let it move 5 pixels. The other thing I want to do is draw the rectangle via its center, and then make it a little bit, maybe make it a little bit taller. So you can see this is my watering can thing. So I don't know why, it's interestingly enough, so boy, all these little details that you don't think about when you start these projects. Oh, it's so simple. But now actually, do I want it to permanently move to the left and the right? How do I stop it if I'm holding down the key? Maybe we'll solve those problems later, but I'm going to just keep moving for right now. So I need to improve the interaction here about actually when I'm holding it down, and there is a way to do that. I know what to do. I'm going to hold that off till later. I'm going to come back and fix that because the next thing I want to do is add the flowers. So if you recall, the flowers are things that live above, and I need an array of them. So I'm going to make a flower object. Come back over here. I'm going to make another new file. And whoops, I'm going to make another new file. I'm going to call this flower.js. And I'm going to make a function. Boy, this is going to take a long time, right? It's 7 minutes, but we'll see how long it takes. I'm going to make a flower object, and the flower object is also going to have an x. I'm going to give it some arbitrary location and a y. And it also is going to have, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to duplicate this, because so much about it is going to be the same. And then I'm just going to rename this to flower, and I'm going to also give it a y to start it somewhere. And this is good, but I want it to be an ellipse. I want it to be purple, because I'm thinking about purple today. I think that's about purple. This should say this.y. Anybody who, hopefully somebody will watch this video and make a really nice, pretty flower design, or I could download a flower image. And I'm going to take out the move function for right now. So we can see now, now I have a flower object, basically the same idea. And what I want to do in Sketch now is make, just to test that this is working, make a single flower object. So I'm going to say new flower, and I'm also going to say flower.show. So now I made that new flower object. I've got this. Now I'm going to refresh, and we can see, flower is not defined. Boy, I cannot remember this. I can never remember index.html. We've got to add a reference to flower.js now. Here we go. Look, I've got a watering can ship and a flower, and I can move my ship, and I have a but one flower is not enough. I want to have an array of flowers. So this is, by the way, with the ship, I probably didn't really need to use a JavaScript constructor function, but I'm going to make the case that it really makes a lot of sense to use it with the flower, because what I'm going to do now is say, actually what I want is to have an array called flowers. And instead of having one flower, I'm going to write a loop. I starts at 0, I is less than 5, I plus plus, and I'm going to say flowers index I equals a new flower, and then here I'm going to take this, and I'm going to put all this in draw, and I'm going to say flowers index I dot show. So now, and let me move this key pressed out of the way because we can come back to it later. So this is the structure. I have a single ship. I have an array of flowers. Aliens if you're really programming Space Invaders. And I'm making 5 flower objects and showing them all. So let's run this again. It looks like there's only one flower. Why? Because they're all being drawn in exactly the same place, because here I have hard-coded the location of the flower. So what do I need to do? This is good, right? I actually need to use constructor arguments. So if I add an x and a y there, those are different x's and y's than the this.x and the this.y that are part of the actual flower object. They're these temporary variables that live as arguments to the constructor that receive a value. And then I can fill, say this.x equals x and this.y equals y. And now I can go back to the main program and say, make me a flower at random width 20. And if I refresh, you can see, oh, I got a bunch of flowers at random locations. But maybe I want to space them out evenly. So what I can do a little math to do that. I can say like, and where did I have it? I had it at like 60. And I can say I times, I don't know, how big are the flowers? The flowers are 60. I times 80 plus 80. I'm making up some math. And then they're kind of spaced out, right? So the first one, I times 80 is 0. And it looks like I could fit easily like a couple more on here. So let's make 6. That one more? See? Whoops. Oh, you know what? This is terrible. Look what I've done here. I made add an extra one, but this here, I should never hard code the value 5 here. I needed to hard code the value 6 here because the array is empty when it starts. But here, I really should be using flowers. .length. So good thing I found that. Whoops. Hit save, and now hit refresh. Okay, so this is a pretty good start. I have a bunch of flowers. I have my watering can. So what I'm going to do now is I need to, oh boy, 12 minutes in, but we're making good progress here. What I need to do now, I'm just checking the chat to see if everybody, like, the timer's a bit small. Oh boy. You can't see that. Whatever. I got to work on my timer. I shouldn't look at the chat. Keep going now. Okay, there's a live chat. I'm doing this live, but most of you will be watching this not live. Sorry to have to say that. Okay, so now I need to add the water. This is going to be the trickiest part, right? Because I dynamically need to make objects that emit from this one, and I don't know how many they're going to be. Like, I know I have one chip, and I know I have 6 flowers, but I don't know how many water particles I have. Water droplets. So first, let's just make the drop. So once again, I'm basically doing the same thing. I'm going to make a new file, and I'm going to call it a drop.js. Whoops, and I have to rename that. Sorry, everybody. Drop.js. And I've got to delete this. Sorry, everyone. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the flower, which has a lot of stuff that's useful for me. I'm going to make the water a kind of bluish color and make it a small circle. And I'm going to call this a drop. And I'm going to remember right now to add that to the HTML file. Oh, not forgetting this time. Yeah, in your face HTML file. That was very rude. I don't want to be mean to the HTML file. I'm very sorry. You are my friend, and I like you. And I just was trying to make a joke, but then I said something a little bit mean, and I don't like that. Edit that out of this video. Don't actually edit it out. I don't know who I'm talking to anymore. Okay, so now I have the drop. So the tricky thing about the drop is, for sure, we can be a little bit advanced about this, and we can probably say we know that the drop, when it moves, it should, the y value should, -1, right, -1 moves it up, right? The y value should change. So I kind of know the drop has an x and a y. It's a small little circle, probably 20 pixels is even too big. It's a small little bluish circle, and it's going to move up. So this is my drop object. So let's just get one drop object here just to test that it's working. So I'm going to add a drop object, and then I'm going to say drop.show and drop.move. So I'm just adding, there's a ship that's showing, a drop that's showing and moving, and flowers that are showing. So if I refresh this sketch, Now, I don't see that drop anywhere. Why not? So let's think about this. We got to debug this. One thing that I would do to debug this is let's not look at the ship or the flowers to just see the drop. Anyone see a drop anywhere? I don't see a drop anywhere. Let's go back to the code and into drop.js. Okay, big problem. The drop needs values to give it a starting location. Well, that's something I clearly forgot. So I want to make the drop. Let's just put it in the middle right now, just so we see that it works. There we go. There's the drop. And you know, I don't like how this drop is looking. So I'm going to say no stroke and make it a little bit bigger and also a little bit brighter, because it's a bright day today. Okay, so there's the drop moving kind of slowly. Probably this kind of thing would move a lot faster. This should be a variable, but you get the idea. That's working. Now, let's put the ship back in. I'm going to show the ship again. Now, how do we get that drop to start from where the ship is? Okay. So first of all, what are we doing here? The drop doesn't exist. The drop only exists maybe if I hit the space bar. So I've done this before. I think I can kind of skip a few steps here and know that what I want is an array. And in the same way that, and I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to comment this out. In the same way that I have this loop to go through all of the flowers, what I want to have is a loop to go through all of the drops and say drops index I dot show, drops index I dot move. So now I'm saying however many drops there are, if there's 0 drops, don't show or move any. If there's 5, show or move all 5. If there's 10, show and move all 10. However many there are, call the show and move function. So when this program first starts, there are none. How do I add them? I need to add drops the moment the user presses the space bar. So now we're coming back to our key pressed, and I can also say now here, if key equals space, there's probably another way to do this, but I'm going to just say if the key equals the space, then I'm going to say var drop equals a new drop, width divided by 2, height divided by 2, and drops.push drop. So whenever the user hits the space bar, make a new drop object and add it to that drops array. And that drops array will just expand magically. Okay, so let's run this. And now if I hit the space bar, oh, drops is not defined. What happened? What did I miss? Always with an error. Line 37, drops is not defined. Oh, I called it drop. I want to call it drops. And this should say drops, and that should say drops. So I was just being inconsistent about my typing, but I fixed that now. Okay, here we go. Ready? And spacebar, 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 spacebar. So you can see every time I hit the spacebar, I get a new drop. But I need to do something more. I need to connect its starting location where that ship is. And you know what? This is going to actually be the easiest thing in the world to do. Because all I need to do is say, instead of hard coding in width divided by 2, height divided by 2, all I need to do is give it the ship's, start that drop at the ship's X location and maybe the bottom of the screen. And now I'm going to run this again, and you're going to see, right, the water droplets are always coming from the ship, no matter where the ship is. And I really want to fix the way I'm moving the ship, but right now I'm going to leave that. You can see, woo, drops. And there's so much more I could do with this, but this is the basic idea. We got to put those flowers back in. Okay, so let's put the flowers back in. And now, a couple things. The flowers should really move. I think in Space Invaders, the aliens go like this. And I'm already almost at 20 minutes, so I'm not sure if I'm going to add that feature to this. And maybe that'll be like bonus exercise for you to try to do, and I'll certainly post a solution with that. But let's at the very least right now, get the drops to hit the flowers and make something happen. Okay, and there's a couple other things I want to talk about with this drops array. Like, in theory, there are still these drops that are now thousands and hundreds of pixels high, and I can't, by the way, my arm, it's very sad how my arm's cut off the way I have this set up, but what can you do? Okay, well, I lost track of what I was doing. Now, let's look here. We have a bunch of drops that are showing and moving. We have a bunch of flowers that are showing. Well, what do we also want to do for every drop? for every drop, I want to look and see if the drop intersects a flower. If the drop and the flower are overlapping, if the drop hits the flower, maybe make the flower bigger to water it or something like that so it grows. Of course, I could make it disappear, which would be the Space Invaders thing. So let's see. So that should indicate to you that I'm saying every drop should check to see if it hit any of the flowers. So for every drop, I want to check every flower, which means I need this kind of loop also inside here. Now, here's a big thing. I don't want to use I in two places. If I'm putting this loop, I is for the outer loop. So for every drop, I really do want to check. I'm going to use J to check every flower. And I'm going to say something like, if drop hits flower. And that's not correct, right? Because what I want to say is if drop I hits flower J, then, and I'm just going to put a console log right now. So just to see if this idea works. Again, I'm like programming this as if there's a magical world where you write a function for a drop like hits, and then you just run the code and it works. Obviously, if I hit refresh here right now, the first thing it's going to tell me is oh, flowers not defined. Yeah, flowers. That's the first thing it's going to tell me. The next thing it's going to tell me is drops index I dot hits is not a function, right? Because I've got to write that function. So where does this function hits go? It goes in the drop object, which is not this file, which is this. This is the long one, by the way. So I want a function called hits. And what am I checking to see if the drop hits? I'm checking to see if the drop hits a particular flower. And how do I know if those two things intersect? So what I want to know is, first thing I need to do is I want to know the distance between this drop's x and y and what? The flowers x and y. And how do I know if, you know, I've definitely made videos about this before, but really, really quickly, just to very, very quickly go over this, if I have two circles and I know the distance between them, I can determine if they are intersecting based on the relative difference between their distance and the sum of their two radii. Right? You can see here, if the distance is longer than the sum of their two radii, they're farther apart. If it's shorter, they're overlapping. So what I want to say is if, and I need a little bit more code space here, if the distance is less than this object's radius, which I'll call r, plus the flower's radius, which I'll also call r, then return true. Otherwise, return false. So I'm writing a function that's sending back true when the drop hits the flower, sending back false when it does not. R, that's something I made up. If I make something up, I've got to actually add it. So this drop is drawn as a circle with a diameter of 16. So I want to make this actually now a radius, this dot r times 2, this dot r times 2, because this should really be a variable. And this dot r equals 8. So the radius is 8. I draw it as the radius times 2, and now I can check the radius there in the drop. And I want to do the same exact thing for the, say it with me. I want to, this dream to be the Mr. Rogers somehow. Can you say flower? No, that's not how it works. Whatever, sorry. Do I have a dream to be Mr. Rogers? Did I just say that? That's a little bit weird. Maybe it's not weird. Maybe that's a nice thing to want to be. Okay, 30. This dot r times 2. This dot r times 2. Okay, so now here we go. So now, oops, in the drop. Where's the drop? Where's the drop? So now I've got this going. Let's refresh. And I'm going to position my watering thing below the flower. I'm going to hit the space bar, and look, it's watering. Now notice it console logged watering 15 times. Why? Because this drop started moving up at the flower. It hit here, it's intersecting, then it moved here, it's still intersecting, then it moved here, it's still intersecting. So what I probably want to do is have a mechanism for getting rid of the drop once it hits the flower. Okay, so boy, there's so many things to add to these. You can't believe, this could just be for an hour. But you know, maybe I should just keep going with this and actually make every feature happen. But let's I'm going to keep going for now. Okay. Oh, people are. I'm checking the chat, and I really should do that in the middle of these videos. Okay. So, okay. So what am I doing here? Okay. So now in the main sketch, okay, if the drops hits the flowers, console log watering. So what I need to do now is, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to have the flower grow, and I'm going to remove the drop. So you could also, seeing how I remove the drop, you could also make a version where you remove the flower, which would be the more traditional Space Invaders thing. So I need to do a couple things. I need to say something like flowers index j dot grow, because that flower should grow. And I need to say something like drops index I dot remove. Because, and now, anytime something turns blue, I have to be a little bit skeptical of whether or not I should use that word, because it's probably a keyword in JavaScript, and it might be fine, but let's think of something else. Drops index evaporate. That's a good name for a water function, evaporate. So I'm going to grow the flower and evaporate the drop. So let's do these things one at a time. I'm going to comment that out, and this means now I need to add a function, this.grow, to the flower object. And I'm going to say this.r equals this.r plus 2. Just gets 2 pixels bigger. So let's look at this, and look at that. So this is actually kind of a nice effect, because oh, we've been overtaken by the purple pink flower of glorious wonderfulness. But you can see here that without the drop being removed, it's behind that flower. And if the flower is growing, and if the drop is moving while the flower is growing, it never leaves the flower, and you have this infinitely growing flower, which is kind of nice. But I'm going to correct that problem. So let's add this other function back in, drops.evaporate, which means I need a function called evaporate. Now, what am I really doing here? What I need to determine, basically, I need a drop to have, I mean, I could do a couple things. One is I could just set its position like way off screen. I could say this.x equals 5,000. And that would kind of be good, because you wouldn't see it. It would be to the user as if it was gone. But it'd probably be better to actually remove it from the array. So what I'm going to do is set like a flag, basically, to know. So I'm going to say like this.toDelete equals false. So when, and maybe I don't need to say toDelete, I'll just call it delete. Oh, bad idea, turned red. That's got to be even worse than, this camera's going to shut off in like 2 seconds. I can like, nope, because I'm at a half an hour. These cameras stay on only for a half an hour. Okay, so I'm going to set up a variable that's going to automatically start as false. And I'm going to set that variable to true. And, you know, this is probably a bunch of extra steps and maybe a little bit redundant, but this is going to set me up for other possibilities, because maybe, you know, I need to do other things later. So what I want to do is basically have a variable in the object that knows whether it's something that's valid and should continue to show and move, or something that I should delete, because the object can't delete itself. The deleting has to happen in the main part of the program where the array is being managed. So what I'm going to do now is show you how to deal with that. And I could say, this is totally unnecessary, but to make things a little bit clearer and more simple, I'm just going to have a completely separate loop down here, which is exactly this same loop. And I'm just going to say, if drops index I dot toDelete, right? If this particular drop is something that should be deleted, then what do? I want to just remove that drop from the array. And the way that you do that in JavaScript is with the splice function. The splice function splices something out of an array, and I need to give it which element out of the array do I want to splice, which is, in this case, I, and I need to give it how many elements. Do I want just that I, or also the one after? And in this case, I want just that I, so I say 1. So now we should be able to run this, and you'll see, right? It's just getting bigger, and those drops are being removed from the array. Now, this totally worked and didn't have any problems, but I really did something that's a little bit problematic. When you're deleting things, and I have a separate video about this, so maybe I'll refer you to that somehow in the description. But when you're removing stuff from an array, if you're marching through the array forward and you delete something, and then the array ka-chunks back, contracts and you move forward again, you actually could skip elements by accident. So this merits probably a longer discussion, but I'm going to save that for another video. But so it's generally a good idea in this case to walk through the array backwards. And how do you walk through an array backwards? I start at the end, length minus 1. I go down by 1, and I go all the way down to 0. So it didn't really matter, because if I missed one, I'll catch it the next time around. It's happening 60 frames per second. But now you can see, here we go. And I can grow these flowers. So in a way, this is kind of like, even at 30 minutes, this is the basic core idea of Space Invaders with some modification in flowers and water. Now, I sort of would like to keep going. I'm looking at the chat because people are asking questions, but I'll have to look at those after. I'd like to keep going to add a few more features, but let me tell you what those features are. So number one is I would like the invaders to move, the flowers, excuse me, and I would like to make the interaction of the ship be a little, this is like too awkward, this is not working for me. I want to be able to hold the key down, and when I release the key, have it stop moving. So I want to fix those two things. However, I might suggest to you, stop this video now, try to add those things yourself, and then come back and watch to see how I did it. But since if anyone's still watching this video 30 minutes in, thank you very much. Okay, so let's add those things, because it's not too much to do. First, let's move the flowers. So if we look at the flower constructor function, which sort of represents like a template for that flower object, it has a function called grow, which grows the radius. It has a function called show, which draws it, but it has no function to let it move. So I think we should write a function called move. And how should it move? It needs to say this.x equals this.x plus something. And this.y equals this.y plus something. Now, if I'm right, if I think about Space Invaders, how it works, these all kind of move together, and then they move down and move together that way. So ultimately, I probably don't really need each object to have its own variables for how it moves, because they don't all move separately, they all move together. But maybe I'll build that into the program anyway, and then they'll all just move together anyway. Boy, this is actually going to be quite tricky, because when one of them hits, they all have to move. Anyway, but it's okay. Let's add a this.x. I'm going to call it x dir for x direction, and this .y dir for y direction. Yeah, this could be done more simply, I think, but I'm going to just go with this right now. So I'm going to say this.x dir equals 1 and this.y dir equals 0, just to sort of see what happens. And I'm going to go back to Sketch, and I'm going to say here, in addition to showing all the flowers, have them move. So let's refresh, and you can see the flowers are moving. Now the issue is when one of them gets to the right side, they need to all move down and start moving to the left. I could do something tricky like only check the right edge one, which I know is the last one in the array. I'm sort of tempted to do that, but let me be methodical about this, and I'm going to say var right equals flowers index I dot oh, this is tricky. Okay, I got an idea. Boy, this is really tricky. What I want to do, I need an algorithm to check if any of the flowers have hit the right edge. So the first thing I want to assume is that none of the flowers have hit the right edge. If flowers index I, and I should build this into a function, but I'm just going to do this right here. If flowers index I dot x is greater than width, right equals true. So this will actually work. This wasn't as tricky. As long as I create that variable up here, if any of them hit the right side, I just set that variable right equals true. And now at the end, I can say if right is true, then what do I want to do? I want to loop through them all again and set their x dir to -1. You know what I'm going to do? This I should really build in a function. Like I'm kind of like doing this thing where I prefer to not have any stray code out here. I want everything to be built into the object. This is going to be too much. So what I want to do is I'm going to call this function shift down. And I'm just doing my indentation here. So basically, if any of the flowers hit the right edge, I want all the flowers to shift down and start moving to the left. So if I go back into my flower object, I actually don't need this y direction variable. I'm going to just get rid of that. And I'm going to say this dot shift down equals function. And what do I do here? The two things I want to happen is I want the y values to move down, and I want the direction to move in a different direction. So I say this dot x dir times equals -1, right? Because I'm reversing it, 1 will now become -1. And I can also say this dot y plus equals, I don't know, let's move it down by r. So in this case, we should see now, it's the edge. Ooh, r is not defined. The classic horrible JavaScript error, right? What is it here? It's this dot r, not r, because it's the object's r. So now it's moving over to the right, hits the right, it shifts down, and now it's going to move over to the left. So all I need to do is also have something to the left. So I should really actually, now that I think about it, I feel like I'm talking to myself. Is anybody still watching this video? I can't imagine anybody is. Okay, so now if I go back to Sketch, actually what do I want? I don't want just to check if it hits the right. I just want to check if it hits an edge. So what I want to know is flowers.x is greater than width, or flowers index I dot x is less than 0. Either edge is true. If edge, shift them all down. So now, here we go, flowers. Hit the edge. Flower dance, hit the edge. There we go. Now, water those flowers as they're coming down at me. Okay, this is too much fun to do the flower Space Invaders watering dance. Okay, I really like those flowers to have a little bit of alpha. It's kind of bothering me that they don't, even though I don't have any visual design sensibility and a bone in my body. Okay, it's a little bit nicer. Oh, they're kind of dark, but it'll be nicer when they overlap. I'm going to make them brighter. There, see, I just wanted that, and I don't want them to have a stroke. Okay, I'm off the beaten path here. The last thing I want to do to this is make the interaction more seamless. I hate this that I can't hold down the key and have the thing move. So I need to figure out how to do this. So let's look at what's happening here. This here is a singular event. Ship move to the right, ship, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Let's key press, the global function key pressed in P5 is a single event. If I press the key, it moves it to the right. Pressing the key as a single event doesn't matter if I'm holding it down. So what I want to do here is basically what I want to do is permanently move the ship to the right, which actually isn't going to be that hard to fix, because all I need to do is essentially have a ship.move function that's always being called. And in here, I want to call this now set direction. So the idea is that the ship is always moving, but I only am setting the direction when I'm pressing the key. So in other words, this is always happening, but now I need a new function, this.setDir equals function. So notice what I've done here. I've written a new function that receives a value and sets this object's x direction to that value. Well, that means that that object's x direction now needs to be used inside the move function, and what? I need a new variable part of that ship, which is x direction, which I will start at 0. So watch this. Now when I hit refresh, I can press the key and it's moving. Now the problem is when I let go of the key, it's still moving. Now this might be the interaction you want for some games and some things, but probably not this one. What I want to do now, and this is actually quite easy, is I just want to add the key released event. And all I have to do now is ship.setDir 0, because when I lift the key, stop moving. And I could check, which key was released, but this I can just say any key that's released, stop moving. And so now we can see this. I can do this. And now I can actually play this. Now there's a problem. Whenever I hit this, whenever I release the space bar, it also stops it from moving. So maybe I should at least correct that. So I could say, as long as key is not equal to space. My phone is buzzing. Like, stop this. Did the audio stop? No, okay. You can see now I can play this game, and I can continue to move with the spacebar. Okay, so loads of fun. This is 40 minutes programming Space Invaders, but with flowers. So here's what I would love for anybody. So I got to get this code online. It's going to take a while, but by the time this video is there, hopefully there'll also be a link to the code and links to other videos that are relevant. What I would love is for anybody who watched this and learned how to program this, see what you can add to this. Can you add a score? Can you add different levels? Can you have 2 rows of flowers or invaders or whatever it is you're making? You can see I'm still missing a lot of pieces, but the core basic game mechanic is here. So thanks very much for watching this Space Invaders / Flower Invaders coding challenge. Okay, I'm going to check the chat and okay. And make me nicer flowers. I forgot to say that. I should get a tattoo of this. If I ever were to get a tattoo, that would not be the worst suggestion, actually, to be honest with you. Okay, so strangely enough, it is now 11:25, which is about the time when I said I was going to finish. I almost want to see if I can do one GitHub tutorial before I go, which maybe I'll do this. I'm trying to scroll through the chat because there is a lot of chat going on. How was that, by the way? A little feedback. How was that relative to me trying to do these like 10-minute rush challenges? Like 40 minutes, is that reasonable to watch a video or kind of thing? Okay. I see some discussion. Yeah, so one thing I'll mention I see some discussion about WebGL and issues that people are having with WebGL in P5. WebGL in P5 is in a very sort of infancy, baby stage. Infancy. It's a very new piece of it, and there's going to be a lot more work on it that happens this summer, and it needs a lot more work. And so you're right to find a lot of errors and issues with it. What I would say is see if you can boil down things that aren't working properly into small bite-sized chunks and post those on P5.js GitHub as issues with friendly spirit. Okay. So I see a lot of like just sort of general discussion. Do people have... Yes, if it was, but live it goes by quick. Yeah, 40, I agree. So if you're watching this live, it doesn't seem so reasonable to be here for like 40 minutes, but if you see like there's a 40-minute video where you're really gonna watch the whole thing, we'll find out. The timer was maybe better. That's good. Simple processing 3D. Yes, so I could do, processing 3D has had a lot more time to sort of develop and is quite robust. I have to admit, I live in fear of 3D, so, but I would like to consider it. So let me see, it's 11:26. Give me a second over here. I'll be right back. Okay, I think I'm back. I'm going to examine, so first thing I want to do is make sure all this is saved. Whoops. And I'm going to examine the Git tutorial. Look at this to see if it's funny, like it's much better to do these like rapidly to what am I saying? To not rapidly, to do them in, boy, my brain is like melted from programming that for 40 minutes. It's much better to do these in sequence because my mind knows exactly what I finished with and how to pick up on that thought. And I can't remember what I did at the end of video number 2. But let me come over here and erase this. I think I could spare 15 or 20 minutes to do one more topic. I could just do another coding challenge. It would have to be one that doesn't take 40 minutes to not be too late for the P5JS meetup, although I suppose making a P5JS tutorial is a good reason to be late. to a meetup. I'm going to move the timer out of the way. I think if I do this, it's gone. Yep. What is agar.io? I don't know what agar.io is. A Chromecast app. Mitosis would still be cool. All right, let's do it. I wanted to do that splitting one. So let's do the splitting coding challenge. Every time I think though something is like this is your life. And I'm playing it out for you. Oh, that's totally easy, simple. I'm going to program that for you in 5 minutes. 2 hours later, I can't figure out why I'm getting array index out of bounds exception. Okay, so let's see. Maybe I'll come back this afternoon and do the Git tutorials, and I'll do one more challenge. I did Space Invaders. I really like spinning the wheel thing. I have an idea. Bear with me for a second here. I'm a little bit hungry. No wonder my brain is fading. Oh, whoops. GitHub. I can't remember. I lost track of where I am. Schiffman.github.io/randomizer. Object splitting. I don't know if you guys can see what I'm doing here. Okay, we're now going to spin this wheel to figure out what the next coding challenge will be. If you're just tuning in, which probably not too many people are, I see we're sort of stabilized at around 50 people. I should check the Twitch chat too. Somebody asked in Twitch, do you go live often? I'm trying to do this once or twice per week. Frankly, I would love to do this every day, but I don't know. Right now, it's not a realistic part of my schedule given other obligations. But I am trying to do this once or twice a week. And you can sign up for an email list of how to get email notifications when I'm going to do a live stream at schiffman.net, or you can just stay tuned to my Twitter, which is @schiffman. Okay. Connect 4 with a socket. Live stream the P5Jest meeting. That's not a bad idea. Okay. Agar.io is you guys are telling me. I'll check out agar.io later. So I'm going to do a really simple demonstration of an object that's moving randomly around the screen, and when you click on it, it splits into two. How about that, right? That makes sense. That'll be something. Why not, right? Okay, let's spin this wheel. Okay, what are we going to get? This is where I need my soundboard, where I have sound effects. I press the button, it goes. Hey, look, we got. What a surprise! We got object splitting. I can't believe it. I'm shocked. Okay, let me get the timer back up because that's clearly. And one thing I want to do here is I'm going to fix something. I'm going to fix. This is like totally ridiculous what I'm doing right now. I'm going to fix. There we go. So you can see that. Totally unnecessary. And you're going to see what I did in a second. There we go. And now I'm going to fix it over here too, where there you go. Now that should be fixed. And then I'm going to hit reset. And here we go. Okay, we are ready for one more coding challenge. I need to, this one will definitely be simpler than Space Invaders because I'm giving myself a very small scope here. What am I looking for? Examples. No, Coding Rainbow. Space Invaders. Let's just copy paste this and call this, we're going to call this Mitosis. Why not? And I don't need any of these things yet. And where am I here? In, sorry, terminal. I need terminal back. I need to run the server, localhost. I need to go here. I got lots of errors, which is fine because I need to go back to here. And text edit needs to go away. And I need to go to Mitosis. And I need to hit the remove folder and go here, here. I need only sketch now. And then I like to have it be completely blank. Oh my goodness, you guys can't see what I'm doing. I apologize for that. Oh, I always forget. Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. Now, hold on. Mitosis. Let's read a little bit about mitosis. Mitosis is part of the cell cycle in which chromosomes in a cell nucleus are separated into two identical set of chromosomes, and each ends up with its own nucleus. Fascinating. Oh boy, I would really, I have this one long video about genetic algorithms, because it's just a video of a presentation I gave that's about an hour long, but it really should do that in chunks and tutorials. And this is kind of, in a way, like a sort of piece of that. So we're going to do a mitosis simulation where you click on an object. I'm thinking about this. And that object is deleted, and two new objects are born. And what I want to do is I want to pass something down. So maybe I give them all random colors, and when you click on it, they keep the random color, so that something like that. Yeah. So let's try that. I need other suggestions. Let me know. Okay. So I now have localhost, Space Invaders. I can go away. Mitosis. Hold on, I need to change this to say mitosis. And I kind of want to do this with, maybe I'll do this one with create vector, which is always nice to sort of see as an example. Why not? Just to give this a little something else. Okay, am I missing anything else? It's 11:35. This is going to be 10 minutes. I'm going to drink. I need to get some water, which is in the other room over here. Okay, I'm back. Got to do some warm-up exercises, get some energy going, and get the mitosis image reference on the screen. And divide the radius in two equal parts. Thank you, Clement Bukaz. That is a fantastic suggestion. Lots of people are asking about 3D. Can't do every topic in one session, but boy, do I want to get to everything. I have a lot of archived videos for those of you who are looking for other topics. Okay, so let's see. Here we go. So I'm going to make like a bunch of yeah, that's fine. I'm going to figure this out as I go. Okay. And here we go. Welcome to another quick coding rainbow coding challenge. I'm going to see how long it takes to program a mitosis simulation. Now, I should really admit that this is not really going to be precisely a simulation of mitosis, which is a complex, interesting biological process. I'm actually just going to be sort of inspired by this idea and make a very, very simple example of a bunch of bubble shapes floating on the screen, and as you click on them, they split into two. So those bubble shapes, those circles will represent cells. You click on them, those cells will split into two, and then you click on those, and those will split. And from there, hopefully, maybe some of you watching this video will take my example and be inspired to read about mitosis and other biological processes and make more complex, sophisticated, and interesting interactive examples. But I already talked for 48 seconds. Let's go. I want to see if I can wrap this up in about 10 minutes. Let's see how that goes. I'm sure by the end we'll find out it was much longer. Okay, so I've got an empty JavaScript file here, and as always, not as always, but as in a lot of these, I'm using something called P5.js, which has a setup and a draw. And the main thing that I want to do is I need a cell object. I need an object on the screen to represent this idea of a cell. And so a way that I'm going to do that is with a constructor function, as you've seen now if you've watched any of these other coding challenges. And I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to use a vector object to store the cell object's position. So create vector is a function that creates a vector being a pairing of components in x and a y. There's a lot more to vectors. I would encourage you to check out my Nature of Code videos and tutorials. No promotional stuff in these coding challenges. But if you want more, you can take a look at those. And then I'm also going to give this, it's going to be very important for it to have a radius, because I'm going to use the radius when the cell splits and it has a radius of 20, the two children cells, so to speak, will have radii of 10. So I'm going to start it with a radius of 20, and I'm going to give it, I want them to move around the screen. Whoops. So I'm going to say this.move equals function, and I'm going to say this.show equals function, and let's first just show it, ellipse at this.pos.x, this.pos.y. So pos is the vector. Pos has built into it an x and a y. So when I want to draw the circle, I want to draw it at this.pos.x and this.pos.y, this.r, this.r. And I already am starting to feel like this is enough code for me to just go and put it in a new separate file. So I'm going to make a file called cell.js, and I'm going to paste it in there. And as always, if I make another JavaScript file that I'm going to use, I need to go to my HTML file and add that in. So I hope if you're trying to program along with me, you're pausing to do some of the stuff as I'm doing it kind of quickly. So now we should be able to see at the very least that I can make a single cell. And I'm going to make a canvas that's 400 and 400 pixels wide. I'm going to give it a sort of dark grayish background. And I'm going to say cell equals new cell, and cell.move, cell.show. So if I refresh this, we should see, where's that cell? It's up there in the top left corner. So this is no good. Clearly what I want is for my cell to start somewhere not the top left corner. What might be useful right now would be to have it start at a random location. So when I said create vector with no arguments, it automatically made a vector with an x of 0 and a y of 0. Now I want a vector with a random width and a random height, giving it a random position in the window. So you can see each time I refresh this sketch, it starts in a new place. And I am calling a function called move, but it's not moving anywhere. Why is it not moving anywhere? Because if I look at my code, I didn't write anything in the move function. So one thing I could do, oh, this is exciting. I could make a variable, I'm going to call it like change for its, I'll call it velocity. It's kind of like its velocity, VEL. And I'm going to say p5.vector.random, random 2D. Sorry about that, everybody. I forgot a crucial thing, which is to hit this button. So here I am, I'm back, and there is a function in P5 called random2D, which I call statically on this sort of idea of a P5 vector, which gives me a random vector. So if I say that, and then if I say this.pos.add that, what this is doing is it's actually saying take that random velocity, add it to position. I could do this all with just this.x and this.y, which I've done in other videos, but kind of giving you a little taste of vectors in P5 here in this one. So now if I refresh this, you should see, there we go. I want to get it somewhere more in the middle. You can see it kind of like jiggling around. It really wants to pick random locations on the bottom. You can see here's its random nervous movement. Now, if you are following along, I encourage you to think about other ways to have this move around the screen based on all sorts of possibilities. Steering behaviors would be a great thing to look into. That's also why I'm building this with vectors, because I have a lot of other examples along these lines that you could take a look at. Okay, so, one thing I want to do is I want it to be bigger, and I think I want to give it a color. So I'm going to give it a color which is going to be, I'm going to call that variable C, and I'm going to make, in P5, I'm going to give it a random red amount and a random blue amount. And I'm going to have those ranges be kind of at least starting at 100. And then I'm going to say fill C, this.c. And I'm going to say, what am I going to say next? And I'm going to say no stroke. So now, here we go. We can see each time I get a random circle with a slightly different color somewhere in the window moving randomly. So this is good. Now, What I want is to be able to click on it, and when I click on it, have it split into two. So I need a new data structure here. I need a data structure that keeps track of a list of these cell objects. Clearly just one is not good enough. So what I'm going to need is an array. So let's go over here to Sketch, and let's change this to cells and make that an array. And then I'm going to say cells.push cell. Right? So in setup, I'm still going to make one new cell object. Oh, and this is the array, so this is cells. It's a little confusing to look at. Everything is the word cell, but let's unpack this for a second. Capital cell, the name of the constructor function that makes cell objects. Lowercase cell, an individual variable holding one cell object. Lowercase cell, plural, the array holding a list of cell objects. So I make one cell object, store it in this variable, and immediately put it in the array. You know what? It's a little bit silly that I did that, because this could be written much more compactly like this. Like I just want to make a new cell object and put it in the array. Why not write it that way? Okay, so let's now run this. We can see, what's going on? I don't see anything. Let's look. I got some errors. Cell is not defined. Why is it not defined? Look down here. I need to deal with the fact that I have an array. So there is no such thing as an individual cell. There is only the array. So what do? For var I equals 0, I is less than cells.length, I plus plus. By the way, you are doomed. If you are watching these videos, you are doomed to type for var I equals 0, I is less than blank.length, I plus plus for the rest of your life. Just letting you know that. It's a nice thing to type. I enjoy it. Okay, so now I want to move. No matter how many cells there are, I want to move and show the cells. Okay, so now, there we go. We've got our one cell. When I click on it, I want it to split. We are trucking along now. 8 minutes. We're going to have this mitosis simulation wrapped up in just a few minutes. What are we missing here? We need a mechanism to know if the user has clicked the mouse, and then we need a mechanism to know if the user has clicked the mouse on a particular cell object. So knowing if the user has clicked the mouse is easy, because I could just say function mouse pressed, which is a global event in P5, which just detects the mouse has been pressed. And then what I need to do here, what do I need to do? I also need to loop through all of these cell objects. Oops. I'm very obsessed with indentation. Apologies. So I need to say if cells index I, what? Clicked? Mouse X, mouse Y, right? What's going on here? So I just realized there's a really common thing that you might think to do, right? Mouse pressed is a global function to detect if the user clicks the mouse. Now, with DOM elements like a button or a piece of text or the full canvas, anything on a web page, you can attach an event to a particular object to know if you clicked only on that object. But this is stuff that we're drawing in a canvas. So these are just pixels. It's up to us to create that mechanism ourselves. And the way that we're going to create that mechanism is by sticking with the mouse is clicked anywhere, but then checking everything and seeing if the mouse is clicked on one of those things. So I'm going to write a new function called clicked inside of the cell object. And what am I going to do in that function? I'm going to say this.clicked equals function, and I need to check it against a particular, I'm passing in mouse X and mouse Y, so I need an X and a Y as arguments to this particular function. And what I want to do is I want to know the distance between this cell's position, its X and Y, and the X and Y that I'm checking. And then if that distance is less than what? The radius, then I've clicked on it. Return true or return false. So because I'm going to handle the stuff with the clicking elsewhere, I want this function to do the figuring out, but just send back the value true or false. So now if I go back here, I can at least say, check to see if this is working by putting a console.logged. Okay, here we go. Dramatic drum roll, please. Look, I'm clicking over here and I don't see anything. I'm clicking over here and I don't see anything. And look at that, I'm clicking on it. And look, let me go right to the edge, nothing. Let me click on it. So we've now at least determined, we know how to figure out, am I clicking on that or am I clicking on something else? And just to be sure that this is really working, let's also at the beginning add 2 cells to this array. And maybe I'm going to make the canvas a little bit bigger. 700, 700 should be fine. I'm going to give myself more space here. There we go. OK, so now I should be able to click here, and I see click anywhere here, nothing. And if I click here, also click. So I'm clicking on any. There we go. So now, what happens if I click on one of them? I need to mitosis. I need that cell to split into 2 copies of itself. How can I do that? This is exciting. Well, there's so many ways we could do this. I can't think of all of them at once. Let's do it in a sort of interesting way, I think. What if I, inside the cell, added a function called mitosis? And that function actually makes two new cells. And how does it make 2 new cells? It makes 2 new cells how? At its position, where it is, with the same color, with half the radius. So basically what I want to say is make a cell at this cell's position with this cell's radius divided by 2 and with this cell's color. Cell A and cell B. I want to make 2 new cells like this. And you know what? Forget about making 2. Let's just make 1. Because let's have a function that's called, I'll call it mitosis, but let's just make 1. Because what can I do? I could say return that cell. Right? So this object knows how to make a new cell with its material and return it. Now there's all sorts of fancy ways to copy and clone objects, but I think an easy way of doing it is just make a new object with this object's data. This is a nice way of doing it, but this won't actually work, right? Look at the constructor function. Look at those parentheses. There's nothing in them. So I need to be able to have the constructor function receive arguments, right? It needs to receive a position, a radius, and a color. So I'm going to change this to get a position, a radius, a color, sorry, and a position, right? So now this works. If I make the cell with position, I get it. If I make it with a radius, it fills it. If I made it with a color, it fills it. Guess what? I'm going to show you guys something wildly interesting. Off topic, but super useful. The problem is, this is how I made the cell out here. I made the cell with no arguments. In here, I made the cell with arguments. How could I make a cell that if I make it with an argument, I use that argument. If I make it with no argument, I get a default value. I'm going to show this to you. Well, can I actually do this? There might be a slight problem with what I'm writing here. But I'm going to show this to you. I'm just trying to remember what I had. Something like this. OK, so I had to really think for a second. So I don't know. This should be fine. You can put function expressions anywhere. Yes. So what's going on here? I got 2 pipes. I've got pause, 2 pipes, then create vector. Let's just see if this even works or gives me an error. Amazingly, it's working. So what's happening here? Let's say you call new cell, and you call it with this. You call it with an actual value. Well, that actual value exists, and so it gets assigned to the object's variable. One of the funny things about JavaScript is absolutely anything can get evaluated to true or false. So if you have a variable that has a value, it gets evaluated to true, basically. If you have a variable that you didn't actually ever assign anything, its value is undefined, and undefined gets evaluated to false. So pause, if it's not defined, is false. So if it's false, I want or. So I want to assign this.pause to this if it's true, or if it's not true, this other value. So this is a way of having optional arguments to a constructor. Now it's sort of tricky. They're not all optional because you have to have them still in the right order. And then I should make a whole video just about this topic, but I'm off the beaten path a little bit too much here. That's about enough, I think, to show you. So now we can see, and what's happening here? I'm still got my clicked going, And now, what can I do here? Instead of, right, if the cell is clicked, this is what I want. Var cell A equals cells index I dot mitosis. Remember, that function makes a new cell, and I'm just going to do this twice. Right? What I'm doing now is saying, if that cell is clicked on, make 2 new cells from that cell's mitosis function, and then what? Cells.push cell A, cells.push cell B, and guess what? We could be, once again, more concise by just doing this. And incidentally, you can see now that if I wanted the cell to split into 5, I could just have a little loop that runs that does this 5 times. So let's see what happens here. Oops, do I have an error? Oops, let me zoom out. Oh no, they're just up top. Click. Whoa, oh, whoa, craziness. It's just moving faster. Whoa, and I still only see 1. What's going on? I know what the problem is. Oh, lots of little tiny lessons inside of these larger ideas. Okay, let's look at what the problem is. Look at this. This dot pos equals pos or create vector. So when pos is something, it gets assigned to this dot pos. When it's not something, a new vector is made. Guess what? Guess what? We've made a fatal error here. Here is a cell. In the computer's memory, here is the data for its position. Now we made a new cell, 2 new cells, and so this is cell.pos. Now we have cell A.pos, and now we also have cell B.pos. They are all pointing to that same vector. Not the same exact vector, the same data. So if I move this one moves. And they all have the same exact location. They can't move independently from each other. So I don't want to do that. I need to take this and copy it. So that cell B, copy it. So this is called like, this is called a lot of things. I have a video about this, another one. But this is the idea of sort of pass by reference, pass by copy. And what I need to do here is I need to make sure I'm thoughtful here and I make a copy of it. Pos. Oh, this is going to be bad. Oh, I've made this so extra complicated for no good reason. This is going to give me an error. Cannot read property copy of undefined. Yeah, right? So it can't copy if it doesn't exist. So I got to write a more complex algorithm here, which is just if pos, this dot pos equals pos dot copy. I just have to break this out. Otherwise, this dot pos equals a new vector. So this is just a little bit more of a long-winded way of writing this for an optional argument. If you're getting a position argument, then set this object's position to that argument's copy. Otherwise, make a new random vector. And this should be OK now. So let's go back. Oh, what happened to my browser? I lost the browser. Come back to me, browser. Mitosis. OK, here we go. Click. Now let's click on it. Oh, yes, they're there. You just can't see them, and I clicked a bunch of times. Oh, I made so many little children. OK, hold on a second here. So in order to figure out if this is really working, I need to do a couple things. One way just to be able to sort of visually see what's going on is let me add a little bit of alpha. Is this going to work? I hope this works. That doesn't, hold on. OK, hold on. I'll just put the alpha, I'm sorry. I'm going to put the alpha here. There you go. So you can see, oh, why did it made so many? Oh, you know why it made so many? That was kind of glorious. Look how many we're making. So why did it make so many? Oh, this is fascinating. OK, so the reason it made so many is, look at this. I'm looping through the array, right? I'm saying, let's think about this over here, right? I've got this array with like 2 cells in it, cell and cell. I get to this one, I click on it. So I add 2 more, and then I go check this one. But now these other ones are being checked. My mouse still clicks. So I'm adding to the array while I'm trying to get to the end in my loop, which is a bit of a problem. So we can actually solve this problem by going through the array backwards. If I go through the array backwards, I can also add to the beginning, but that's going to make things really wonky. If I'm going through the array backwards, I can add things onto the end without messing up my sort of iterative thing that I'm doing. So I'm going to say cells.length minus 1. That's starting at the end. I is greater than or equal to 0, and I minus minus. Okay, so here we go. These are dark. Let's look at this one. Zoom in. We're going to click on it, and you can see now there's just 2 there. And if I click on one of those, that one, it's split into 2 as well. So, and the one thing is, by the way, if they're overlapping and I click, all of them are going to split. But that's a problem you can worry about for another time. But let's at least fix one more thing here, which is that I also might as well say splice I. So what does this do? The moment that I click on a particular cell, add 2 new cells to the array and delete that one. So that the cell that was clicked on is cell I, so I'm deleting that one, and then I'm adding 2 new cells. So the 2 new cells get added, and the old one gets deleted. We can go back. I don't know why. Maybe I should have a brighter background. Someone make me a nice visual design for this example with nice colors and interesting bacteria looking like things. Let's try this. There we go. That's nicer. So if I click on here, you can see 2. And you know what I don't love about this? They both start right where that first one is. I feel like I want to give them a little separation, like a little bit of like almost as if a burst outward. So at least what I'm going to do is say this dot new, and by the way, I'm going to say, oh no, okay, sorry, I'm going to make a new position equals create vector, this dot pos. I'm trying to think of it's like the code gets so long in a given line. I don't know why I'm deciding I need to fix this for here, but what I want to do is this dot pos dot x plus random. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna set it to the right. Oh no, it has to be random because 1 goes to the right. So oh yeah, minus plus. Sorry. So I'm gonna offset equals random -10 10, and new pos equals this dot pos plus offset, comma this dot pos. You know what I can do? I'm sorry. This dot pos dot x plus equals this. Sorry, I know I was like thinking about this through way too many times in my head of like a nice concise way of writing it. This is pretty good. I just want to like, before I make that new cell, I'm going to just like shove its position to the right or the left somewhat randomly so that the new cells aren't in exactly the same position. And also r divided by 2, dividing it in half while probably accurate in some way, it just like gets so small so fast. So I'm going to just like multiply it by like 0.8 to have it just be 80% the size. Now, I guess 10 pixels is, oh, you know what? I should just make it random based on R. And that might do the trick to give it, whoops. That's too much, right? Whoa. Way too much. Way too much. There we go. That's kind of what I wanted. It's still too much a little bit. And so I don't know what I'm doing here. Somebody will come up with a better, really what I want, and I'm gonna comment this out because it's really sort of not a crucial detail. Do you know what I want? I want a system where the bacteria are moving not just randomly, so that when you click on it, there's a bit of a burst. And if they have some sort of like physics to them, their velocity would be pointed out in opposite directions. So you might see more of a split there in that sense. So this is the basic idea. You can see as I click on these, they separate. I'm going to let this run for a little while, and the cells are splitting. So I don't know. This was 25 minutes. Oh my goodness. 25 minutes, mitosis example. I got to just stop now. Hopefully you will take this idea and maybe actually build more features into it. You know, the motion could be more interesting. When they split could be something different. What happens if they bump into each other? Maybe they come back together. Can you take two and make one that's bigger? What other types of things could you pass? What if they each like have a label and that label gets passed? So many possibilities. Please make some variation on this. Read about actual mitosis and teach me something about it and share it in the comments or send tweet at me, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Okay, so that concludes this particular video, I don't know if anybody is still watching, but I've got to go. There's 19 people watching on Twitch and 48 people watching on YouTube. So this concludes this morning's 1 hour and 40-minute live stream, which I just did 2 programming examples, which were much longer than I intended. Hopefully those will be useful. They'll get posted. And I'm going to come back this afternoon. It is noon. I'm going to come back this afternoon around, I'm guessing around 3 o'clock now. I would say 3 hours from now. And I want to continue doing Git and GitHub tutorials. And those will be, that's what I'm going to do, even though I really want to do this Connect stuff too. But I also would be happy to answer kind of general questions. So if you feel like it, come back around 3 p.m. Eastern time. I will post updates on Twitter as to when I will be back. And thanks very much for watching. I'm just seeing if there's any feedback. Someone's asking if I use Leap Motion. I have used it. I don't have one on me, but I would love to do a tutorial with the Leap. And I will see you guys later. Okay, I'm going to turn off the stream. Think of your questions. Come back later. I'm just looking in the chat. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.